James, can you simplify this document for me? You must be free anyway, Tyler said as he placed a stack of papers in front of me, causing me to sigh in frustration. There's no way I'm free. With no instructions from my boss, I glance at the never-ending workload before meeting Tyler's eyes again. Tyler grins, clearly understanding why I'm troubled. Of course, he knows. He's my direct supervisor, after all. Well then, I'm counting on you. The deadline is still a ways off, he says before quickly leaving as if he has no more business to attend to. Looking back and forth between the added workload and the ongoing tasks, I let out a sigh. He has no idea what's going to happen to him later. My name is James. I'm pretty unremarkable and hardly stand out at all. I did fairly well in high school. But it wasn't something to boast about in school, just slightly above average. However, there is one thing I am confident about. Computers. I can proudly say that I love them. It all started when I was a child, watching my dad type away at the computer. Back then, I had no clue what he was doing. Yet, I was a little fascinated by the way he controlled that mysterious machine. When I actually started using a computer, I was amazed at its versatility. I had no idea that everything operated through programming. The games I played without much thought, the websites I browsed, they all ran on programmed software. A computer could manage everything. It was like a dream. That's when it started. I became eager to learn more about computers. It influenced my choices for high school and beyond. While everyone else was unsure, I had no doubts. I knew exactly where I wanted to go. The university I chose was considered low tier at the time. I had decent grades, so my teachers and friends often gave me skeptical looks and suggested that I could aim for a better university. Indeed, I had the grades to get into a more prestigious place if I had wanted to. But I wanted to choose the path I was interested in. The university I aimed for might have been low tier. But it specialized in something important. It was the best place in the area for computer and IT education. My parents didn't object. They supported me, saying I should do what I wanted to do. Thanks to their support and my enthusiasm, I got into university. Over 4 years, I was thoroughly drilled in computer knowledge and skills, becoming much more proficient than most people. After that, while I wanted to work in a computer-related field, it didn't quite work out. Now, I'm just an ordinary office worker. For someone as unremarkable as me, it's probably a fitting job. But computers are essential even in my office job. The skills I learned in university definitely come in handy at work. Perhaps because many people lack specialized knowledge, I become quite sought after in the office. Not just by older colleagues who are clueless about computers but also by younger ones who understand a bit but aren't experts. Everyone seems to agree, if you have a computer problem, ask James. While I feel proud, it's also a bit embarrassing. I'm glad my skills are useful, and I'm always happy to help when asked. In return, my senior colleagues have taught me efficient ways to manage work. I have good relationships with my coworkers. Thankfully, they are all kind people, and I could say my professional life has been smooth sailing. With one exception. James, I need this job finished quickly, or I'm in trouble. I said by tomorrow, Tyler said sternly. I'm sorry. But if you had told me sooner. Are you saying it's my fault? I'm taken aback by the sharp glare he throws my way. This person is Tyler, my direct supervisor. It seems like he just can't stand me. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. Maybe I just caught him at a bad time whenever I approached him. But, Tyler, about tomorrow's meeting. I was blatantly ignored several times. Trying to discuss the meeting without any response from him leaves me in a bind. Going to the meeting unprepared resulted in a mess, and my supervisor was not impressed. I've completed the proposal. Please review it. Ah, thanks. It's kind of lacking. It's missing something, he said with a chuckle. What should I do? Thinking for yourself is important. Try to figure it out again. Or is that too hard for a grad from that university? I've been mocked before, with laughter tinged in their words. It's clear even without much thought. I am being looked down upon. Coupled with vague instructions and responsibilities being dumped on me. I'm still a newcomer, after all. No matter how many times I revised and submitted my work, it was never right. You'd see the problem if you thought about it a bit, he'd say. Finally, I'll do it myself. It's no use with a bottom-tier university grad like you. Computers are your only strength, he declared. Then he'd scoff and take the work away from me. Later, I found that my submissions were used without any changes. I couldn't help but realize that I was being harassed. The harassment from Tyler only escalated day by day. Good morning, I'd say. Hey James, you're late. Do you know how many people's time you've wasted? He'd shout. I'm sorry. One time, I was late to a meeting because he had given me the wrong time, and I got scolded by the boss. When I told Tyler about the mix-up, he insisted I told you correctly. You must have remembered wrong. That couldn't be. I had listened carefully and taken notes. But since it was a verbal exchange, I had no proof. James, is the data for the document ready? I need it submitted today. I'm sorry. I'll get right on it. Though I was sure I had prepared it the day before, the data was nowhere to be found. Suddenly, I caught a glimpse of Tyler. Seeing me panic, he seemed to be laughing. No, he was laughing. Could it be? Despite my suspicions, I had no proof. Such incidents continued, and I was met with disdain or awkward looks from others. These were not my failures. That's why the gradual decline in my reputation within the company was painful. Additionally, Tyler, could you review this proposal for me? It's a bit off. Can you tweak this part to make it better? What exactly do you mean by better? I can't proceed without your guidance, Tyler. Didn't I tell you before? You need to think for yourself. I'm busy right now. Come back later. It was always vague instructions. Even though I can't submit anything without approval from Tyler, my supervisor. I was often left unattended and scolded unfairly. Because of this, my work was always down to the wire, causing not only job fatigue but also mental exhaustion. Yet, I had no choice but to endure. One day, while reviewing work, I discovered my name listed in an unexpected place. What's this? I hurriedly checked the content. It was a project that hadn't progressed due to vague instructions. Why is my name listed as the worker on this project? It looked as though I had been in charge of it all along. I scrolled down the page. Click. I opened the file. And what I saw on the screen. So that's what it was. Later, a mistake was found in an important project. The person listed as in charge was me, James. Tyler and I were called by President Anderson, who said with a serious expression, "This is a significant loss for the company. I'm sorry, but we'll need you to resign." I'm sorry. If I had guided James better. As his supervisor, this is embarrassing, Tyler apologized repeatedly. President Anderson looked at me with a stern gaze. It was indeed a painful mistake for the company. There was no longer any welcoming atmosphere for me there. I apologize for this. I was fired to take responsibility. Without saying anything more, I left the company. It's been half a year since then. Despite losing my job, I desperately sought re-employment. My efforts paid off, and now I work at another company. Here, my computer knowledge is highly valued. Perhaps the new company noticed that part on my resume. During the interview, President Harrison asked me about it, and I ended up passionately talking about my love for computers. How I entered university because I love computers. How I want to work in a job where I can use this knowledge. If I could join, I would like to fully utilize my skills. I got a bit carried away and felt embarrassed, but it seems President Harrison liked it. Please, I'd love for you to work with us, he said, offering me the job. Although I had a terrible time in my previous job, I consider myself fortunate to have joined a company where I can use my computer skills. It seems my knowledge and skills were recognized as I hoped. I was promoted at an unusual pace, and before I knew it, I had climbed quite high within the company. One day, my boss, Nathan, approached me. "Ah, James. There's a dinner coming up, and I'd be delighted if you could join us. What do you think? A dinner? I would love to join. I'm glad. The venue is a fancy restaurant. Since we're meeting with our clients, I thought it would be good for you to join and make some connections, Nathan mentioned enthusiastically. Being invited to dine with clients made me deeply realize how much I was contributing to the company. Though I felt nervous, I wanted to make a good impression on behalf of our company. Plus, I was genuinely excited about dining at a fancy restaurant, having never really had the chance before. Then came the day of the dinner. A bit intimidated by the upscale ambience, I proceeded inside the restaurant. There, I froze involuntarily. There was no mistaking the person I least wanted to see. Why was he here? It seemed he noticed me too. Our eyes met. Isn't that you, James? Tyler? I never expected to meet him here. After a moment of surprise, Tyler, looking me up and down, snorted dismissively. I wondered where you ended up after getting fired, but a fancy restaurant. This isn't a place for someone who can't do their job, he sneered. Always with the digs from the start. I suppressed the urge to retort. Getting angry here would be ridiculous. Yet, his mouth seemingly knew no bounds. What are you doing now? I bet you're not capable of anything decent. I had been doing my job properly. The one who didn't give proper instructions was you. Too bad for you, the work goes on just fine without you. Just goes to show what new hires could manage. No sign of remorse, just brazen arrogance. He looked as though he had managed all the work himself, his face saying he hadn't done a single thing wrong. He probably thought his actions hadn't been discovered. I could have walked away silently, but I had reached my breaking point. Mock people all you want, but someday it'll come back to bite you. What? I have an appointment, so if you'll excuse me. Leaving a stunned Tyler behind, I walked away. I didn't have time to waste on such a person. I was here for a business dinner, after all. Having arrived a bit early, I managed to make it on time. As we savored the food at the fancy restaurant, the conversation with our clients flowed well. Nathan's choice of venue was excellent. The clients were in high spirits, and the dinner was undoubtedly a success. Nathan even thanked me afterward, "Thanks for coming. It really helps to have someone as passionate as you." It was an honor. Then there was that person. A few days later, I was at the company I used to work for. As Tyler came into work and saw me, his expression twisted in surprise. "Why are you here?" My expression said it all, but I responded with a smile. "James? What are you doing here after being fired?" "I just had some business here." "Don't mind me." Was he planning to speak directly to President Anderson, or did he think it pointless to say more? I watched as he turned toward his department. However, Tyler stopped in his tracks before he could reach his desk. The employees who had already arrived all turned their gaze towards him at once. Perplexed looks pierced through Tyler. "What's the matter? Is something wrong?" Tyler, looking flustered, glanced around and backed away. Whether he was intimidated by the odd scene or simply panicking, his face looked pale. Just then, someone murmured softly, "President Anderson." Hearing heavy footsteps, the employees parted like the Red Sea as President Anderson approached. "Tyler, what is the meaning of this?" Startled by the sudden shout, Tyler shrank back as if frightened. His face contorted as he looked at the paper thrust in front of him. The document detailed Tyler's actions. Various acts of corruption. Data tampering, inflating profits, selling customer information. Other instances of forgery and misappropriation were meticulously noted. "This is... I thought you were competent, but to think you were involved in such things. I'm disappointed. It's a misunderstanding. Surely there's been some mistake." Our eyes met. Then, as if struck by a thought, he blurted out. "That's right. It was him. It must have been James while he was still at the company. There's no way. Our company's anti-fraud measures are among the best in the industry. We have a detailed report asserting that you did this. So that's..." His attempt to shift the blame was transparent. He desperately tried to argue, but it was clear he was in a bad position. His face had turned completely pale, trembling with either fear or anger. Though he glared at me defiantly, he lacked his usual composure. At that moment, an employee timidly raised a hand. What Tyler said is true. I've heard him boast about it before. I also heard him say he tampered with the data and thought nobody would notice. What? Don't spout nonsense. Spurred by this, other employees also began murmuring about what Tyler had done before. Stories of stolen work achievements and sold data emerged. They surely had wanted to speak up earlier but couldn't. Speaking out carelessly could have led to unpredictable consequences. As more and more corrupt actions were revealed, Tyler's expression worsened. Still wanting to escape responsibility, Tyler glared at me again and shouted, "James! You fabricated all this." "No, I simply used legitimate means to investigate." "You might have silenced people with power, but you couldn't manipulate all the data." "Data? Everything you did under various people's logins was meticulously recorded. Didn't you know? It leaves traces." "Indeed." On that day, suspecting Tyler might know something, I checked every bit of data left on the computer. As expected, he had committed many misdeeds. While Tyler was proficient with computers, my knowledge is several times greater. That's why I was able to notice all those records. And now, I am using that expertise in the company I currently work for. Indeed, at a company that specializes in fraud investigation. I never thought I'd be picked up by such a company after being fired. It truly was a stroke of luck. Being able to expose Tyler's misdeeds was a way to return the favor for all that had happened. I never expected such a thorough investigation to uncover so much corruption. Moreover, Tyler probably liked to brag about his achievements due to his personality. Honestly, going around talking about his misdeeds everywhere seems downright foolish. What a mess. You should have been the one to be fired. President Anderson, please, anything but firing me. The looks directed at Tyler, who had collapsed to the floor and clung to him, were nothing but cold. No matter how much he pleaded, the facts of what he had done couldn't be changed. His pleas were unlikely to be accepted. "James, it might sound too good to be true, but would you consider working with us again? I'm sorry. After I was fired here, I already took a position with another company. Please. The work efficiency was so much better when you were here." Indeed, many in this company were not proficient with computers. While the average employee could use them, only a handful were truly knowledgeable. Given the circumstances. I understand. I'll consult with my superiors, but it's likely to be in the form of a business collaboration. James, that would be a great help. I'm sorry for everything that happened. Thanks to you exposing him, our company was saved from further losses. I can't thank you enough. No, I owe a lot to this company as well. If I can be of help again, I'd be glad to. After consulting with President Harrison of my current company, he gladly agreed. You truly love computers from the bottom of your heart, so go ahead and help them, he encouraged me. I really did land in a great company. Although cleaning up Tyler's mess was irksome, the truth was that other employees had treated me kindly. And I wasn't the only one who had suffered because of Tyler. Perhaps this was an opportunity to create a learning opportunity about computers for the entire company. And so, I officially began working in a business collaboration arrangement. Though I was wearing two hats, it only meant more time with computers. Both companies cared about their employees, ensuring I could take proper breaks. And I would continue to leverage my knowledge and skills every day, fully engaging with my work.